SAP CCA, Cost Center Accounting, Interview Questions and Answers. What is Cost Center Accounting, CCA, in SAP? Cost Center Accounting, CCA, is a module in SAP that allows businesses to track and analyze costs incurred by different cost centers within an organization. It helps in monitoring expenses and allocating costs to specific cost centers. How do you define a cost center in SAP CCA? A cost center in SAP CCA is defined as an organizational unit or department within a company that incurs costs. It can be created based on functional areas, divisions, or any other meaningful grouping of activities that require cost tracking. What is the purpose of cost center planning in SAP CCA? Cost center planning in SAP CCA allows organizations to set budgetary targets for cost centers. It helps in forecasting and estimating expenses, allocating resources, and monitoring the actual costs against the planned figures. What is the difference between a primary cost element and a secondary cost element in SAP CCA? Primary cost elements in SAP CCA are used to record actual costs directly to cost centers, such as raw material expenses or wages. Secondary cost elements, on the other hand, are used for allocating and distributing costs from one cost center to another, such as overhead costs. How do you assign costs to cost centers in SAP CCA? Costs can be assigned to cost centers in SAP CCA through various methods, such as direct postings, allocations, assessments, and distributions. Direct postings are made to specific cost centers, while allocations, assessments, and distributions distribute costs from one cost center to others based on predefined rules. What is the difference between assessment and distribution in SAP CCA? Assessment is the process of redistributing costs from sender cost centers to receiver cost centers based on statistical key figures. Distribution, on the other hand, distributes costs from sender cost centers to receiver cost centers based on activity quantities. How do you perform cost center reporting in SAP CCA? Cost center reporting in SAP CCA can be done using standard reports or by creating customized reports using tools like SAP Report Painter. Reports can provide information on actual costs, planned costs, variances, and other key performance indicators. What is the significance of cost center groups in SAP CCA? Cost center groups in SAP CCA are used to classify and group cost centers based on similar characteristics or attributes. They help in organizing cost centers for reporting, analysis, and planning purposes. What is the purpose of statistical key figures in SAP CCA? Statistical key figures in SAP CCA are non-monetary quantities that are used as a basis for allocating costs or calculating activity rates. They provide a way to distribute costs based on factors other than actual expenses, such as headcounts, machine hours, or square footage. How do you handle internal orders in relation to cost centers in SAP CCA? Internal orders in SAP CCA are used to track and control costs for specific projects or events. Costs incurred on internal orders can be settled to cost centers, enabling better cost visibility and analysis. What is the purpose of cost center assessment cycles in SAP CCA? Cost center assessment cycles in SAP CCA are used to define the rules and methods for distributing costs from sender cost centers to receiver cost centers. They specify the allocation bases and proportions for the distribution process. Can you explain the concept of cost center hierarchies in SAP CCA? Cost center hierarchies in SAP CCA allow for the organization and structuring of cost centers in a hierarchical manner. They provide a logical grouping and reporting structure for cost centers, enabling better analysis and reporting at different levels of the organization. How do you perform variance analysis in SAP CCA? Variance analysis in SAP CCA involves comparing the planned costs with the actual costs and analyzing the differences. Variance reports can be generated to identify and investigate the reasons for cost deviations, enabling better cost control and decision-making. What are cost center standard hierarchies in SAP CCA? Cost center standard hierarchies in SAP CCA are predefined hierarchies that come with the system. They provide a standardized structure for organizing cost centers based on industry best practices or common organizational structures. How do you handle cost center planning for multiple fiscal years in SAP CCA? In SAP CCA, you can create separate planning versions for different fiscal years. Each planning version allows you to define the budgetary targets for cost centers for a specific fiscal year, enabling long-term planning and comparison across multiple periods. What are the key steps involved in the month-end closing process for cost centers in SAP CCA? The month-end closing process for cost centers in SAP CCA typically involves activities such as reviewing and approving postings, reconciling actual costs with the general ledger, analyzing variances, and generating financial reports for management review. Can you explain the concept of cost center split in SAP CCA? Cost center split in SAP CCA is the process of dividing the costs of a single cost center into multiple cost centers based on specific criteria. It allows for a more detailed analysis of costs and better allocation based on different dimensions such as products, departments, or regions. What is the purpose of cost center assessments in SAP CCA? Cost center assessments in SAP CCA are used to distribute costs from sender cost centers to receiver cost centers based on statistical key figures. Assessments allow for the allocation of costs that cannot be directly assigned to cost centers. How do you handle period-end closing activities in SAP CCA? Period-end closing activities in SAP CCA involve reconciling the actual costs with the general ledger, analyzing variances, and generating financial reports. It also includes activities such as settling internal orders to cost centers and ensuring data accuracy for reporting purposes. What is a statistical cost element in SAP CCA? A statistical cost element in SAP CCA is a cost element that is not used for actual cost postings. It is created to capture statistical values that are used for cost allocations, assessments, or statistical reporting purposes. How do you perform cost center allocations in SAP CCA? Cost center allocations in SAP CCA involve distributing costs from sender cost centers to receiver cost centers based on predefined allocation rules. This can be done using methods such as proportional allocation, fixed amount allocation, or activity-based allocation. What is the purpose of cost center reports in SAP CCA? Cost center reports in SAP CCA provide insights into the cost structure and performance of cost centers. These reports help in analyzing actual costs, comparing them with planned costs, identifying variances, and making informed decisions for cost optimization.